Hello, welcome to Game Dive. My name is Drake Cummings, and E3 is quickly approaching. We're about a week away, less actually because EA decided to do their press conference super early this year. They're doing it on Saturday. It's got to do with EA Play. They're trying their own whole thing. But I believe there's a total of 8 press conferences this year, and honestly, each one I believe is uniquely set up to be the best press conference of E3. But so much can go wrong. We've seen great potential wasted in years past, and so each one could also be the worst press conference of E3. And so that's what I want to do today. I want to go through each press conference, and I want to talk about why it honestly could be the best and why it honestly could be the worst press conference of E3 2017. So the first up is EA. EA has not brought their A game over the past 2 years, I'd say. They've pretty much since this generation has started, EA has not had an impressive showing at E3. It is largely part because EA is obsessed with their sports games, and they bring conceptual prototypes and weird documentaries no one wants to watch. So let's start with that. Why EA might have the worst press event this year. Yeah, they like spending time on their sports games. They like demoing them. They like bringing out athletes to talk about them. They like going on, and it feels like hours. Sometimes it feels like their press conference is the longest simply because we're so bored. It's usually the bathroom break. It's usually checking our phones. There are not many people who are interested in the sports section of the E3 press conferences. See, because I get that they sell a lot. The EA sports games are a huge staple and they sell a bunch, but the majority of people watching these press conferences do not care about the seemingly small additions to these long-running sports franchises. Also, like I said a little bit earlier, they bring conceptual prototypes in documentaries, and then they expect that to excite us. It does not. They've tried it twice, and it's worked not once. They show us people supposedly working or pretending to work on these Star Wars games instead of just actually showing us a game. And I get it. I get that the games simply are not ready, but that is the wrong way to approach it. But it's not all doom and gloom. They have a few aces up their sleeves. So, why EA might have the best press event at E3 2017? Star Wars. I'm not even a huge Star Wars fan, but this could be the year that they really blow us away because Amy Hennig's Star Wars was teased last year, so they gotta show it this year, right? This has to be the year. Amy Hennig was, for those who don't know, the director of the first 3 Uncharted games, and that is a perfect fit for Star Wars, I think. The tone and style of the first 3 Uncharted games, I think, make for a really great framework for a Star Wars game. Amy Hennig's in Star Wars could be like one of the best games at this year's E3. It could be the thing that we're all talking about. Think about Uncharted 2. Think about the impact that Uncharted 2 had in 2009 or 2008, whenever that was demoed. This could be like that, but with Star Wars. Also, Battlefront 2 is probably going to be there. Battlefront 2 is shaping up to be a really good game, actually. There's a lot of ill will around Battlefront 1 for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Most of those complaints seem to be addressed, though. So there will be a campaign. Criterion is working on the vehicle combat and vehicle aspects of that game. Crazy. It really does seem like they're putting all their chips in on this next one. Battlefront 2 could be that game that everyone got excited for way back in that teaser of the AT-AT stomping through the snow. So that's EA this year. And if you're not a huge fan of Star Wars, there's gonna be other stuff too. Need for Speed looks like Fast and Furious. If you like Fast and Furious, you're probably gonna like this one. BioWare could have their new IP. There's actually a lot to be excited for. It's just, whether or not they can actually pull it off. So next up is Microsoft. We actually don't know a whole lot about what is gonna be in the show this year. Scorpio is definitely gonna be a big part of it, and that's pretty much the only guarantee. So with new hardware, it could go one of 2 ways. So why Microsoft might have the worst press event of E3 2017? Yeah, new hardware is supposed to be exciting, but the Scorpio is only kind of new hardware. It is an incremental upgrade to a console that we already own. And so there's a big chance that Microsoft just gets up there and they spend so long talking about their teraflops and talking about the graphical power and all sorts of tech stuff that we honestly don't care about, because we care about the price and we care about how much better is it than the thing we already own. Most people don't actually care about the numbers. And so Microsoft really likes talking about their tech. They are excited to be the most powerful console ever made. And there is a big danger of them spending too much time on the small details and not enough time on why it matters. Also, Scalebound was recently canceled, and Phantom Dust ended up just being a remaster of a game that already came out. And so there's a big fear that what else is going to get scrapped? Is Crackdown 3 actually going to happen? And when there are new announcements this year, why can we be certain that these won't get canceled? Why get excited about a thing when Microsoft has such a track record of just bailing on games? But it doesn't have to go that way. They could also roll Scorpio out incredibly well. So, why Microsoft might have the best press event of E3 2017? Because Scorpio could actually be really cool. So, new hardware can be exciting, and this is the most powerful video game console anyone's ever made. Let's see what that looks like. Let's see how that makes the games that we were already going to buy look. Show us why Scorpio is a solid investment. And paired with that would be games. The best way to show why Scorpio is impressive is show a brand new game off of that. Obviously a game that you can buy on your Xbox One, but show the Scorpio version. Show why the Scorpio version is the best version. And don't make everyone who bought an Xbox One feel bad. Don't get up there and be like, if you have an Xbox One, you're not playing this game properly. Don't do that. That's alienating. A lot of problems Microsoft has had this generation is they just haven't felt like they're in touch with the consumer. Don't alienate the people you already have, but also make sure that you make Scorpio a big deal. Don't do that with Talking Heads. Don't bring out Talking Heads to explain that. They'll probably have new IP this year. I think it's about time. That's not too crazy. I don't know who would be working on it, but it is around time for Microsoft to show off, a brand new in-house IP. And then of the games that they have showed that haven't gotten canceled yet, Crackdown 3 could demo well. Sea of Thieves looks really cool. We Happy Few is a really cool indie game. Show more stuff like that, and you'll do fine, Microsoft. So next up is Bethesda. If we know very little about what Microsoft's going to bring, we know nothing about what Bethesda's going to bring. I don't know any other press conference where I've gone in this dark. They have had a great showing over the last 2 years, but the last 2 years we had some guarantees. This year we do not. So why Bethesda might have the worst press conference of E3 2017? Because the unknown is scary. Why don't we know what's going on? Because everything that you talked about last year has already come out. And so is Bethesda big enough to have enough studios, to have enough new IPs or new games that we don't know about to fill up a whole press conference? Honestly, I'm not sure. I thought we pretty much knew what all their studios were working on at this point. Also, there was Fallout the first year. Fallout 4 is what closed that show, and you really got it. You got the feeling that the press conference was just kind of framed around having an avenue to blow out Fallout 4 the way it did. And then they teased or put out a CG trailer for Dishonored 2, and then that became their big game for the next year. And even at that, it was an interesting showing, but it definitely felt like it wasn't as big of a deal. I don't know if it's the way they showed it or just the fact that Dishonored is going up against such a massive game like Fallout 4 as a direct comparison, but it didn't feel the same. It didn't feel like it had the same impact as that blowout game. And so after last year, I thought Prey was going to be that game. I really thought Prey was going to be the game that they blew out this year, but Prey's already out. And so what are you going to show, Bethesda? I think there is a chance that they actually don't have enough for a press conference this year, and they just feel like they have to at this point, because Bethesda wants to be a big name in the publishing game, but they might not have the games to be able to back up having a conference every year. That's obviously the pessimistic view. So why Bethesda might have the best press event of E3 2017? Because the unknown can also be really exciting. So we don't know much of what's going to be there, but that means everything's a surprise. Everything's a great reveal. And they actually have two announcements that are pretty likely, and they're both great. So Wolfenstein: The New Order was a pleasant surprise when it came out. I think a lot of people expected that game to be worse than what it was, and it was good. It was a really solid single-player first-person shooter, and it was single-player only, which was crazy. They doubled down on their single-player, and it was a really fun time. And so this is probably a sequel to that. Whatever Machine Games has been working on, it's probably another Wolfenstein game. And so I'm excited to see what they could do with that. There's actually a lot of potential with the world and the game that they set up with that first Wolfenstein: New Order and its expansion, Wolfenstein: The Old Blood. Also, whatever Tango has been working on, probably the Evil Within 2, but even if it's not, here's the thing. Tango is led by Shinji Mikami. Shinji Mikami has one of the best resumes and track records and one of the most diverse portfolios of anyone in the industry. This is a list of games that Shinji Mikami either directed or was in a position of leadership for. Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil Remake, Resident Evil 4, Dino Crisis, Onimusha, Phoenix Wright, Killer 7, God Hand, Vanquish, Shadows Dam, Beautiful Joe, Devil May Cry, and a bunch more. Those are some of the most well-known, best game franchises ever made. It's crazy that this one man worked on all these different things, and he is directing another video game. It's gonna be good. If it's the Evil Within 2, it's gonna be good. If it's something else entirely, it's gonna be good. Whatever that man's working on is going to be good. And that is exciting. And outside of that, I have no idea. I can't even begin to speculate what else they might be working on. If it is only those two games, it's gonna be hard to make those two things carry an entire show. But I do believe in Bethesda. They have not had a bad press conference yet. And their games are consistently good. Bethesda games are usually quality, and so whatever they do show is probably going to be a good game that we're probably going to be talking about. So next up is Ubisoft. Ubisoft puts out a lot of games. Some would argue they put out a lot of the same game. I do not accept that argument, but Ubisoft games are typically very formulaic and they are very similar to each other. Sometimes they can feel like checklists where you are just going and doing very similar missions over and over again for 40 hours. And so why Ubisoft might have the worst press event of E3 2017? Because, if not a whole lot has changed, then it is going to be hard to get excited about anything they show. Ubisoft made a good call when they took a year off Assassin's Creed, and that also meant that the pressure is on for the next one. The stakes are higher for this Assassin's Creed than they have been for perhaps the past several, and that is because people are expecting significant change and improvements. You take a year off from a franchise that's typically a yearly thing, and people are going to expect you to have used that time to make something that couldn't have just been made in a year. A lot of the reasons why Assassin's Creed took a year off is because it was getting too samey. And so if they don't come out and they don't prove why Assassin's Creed is different and why they needed that year off, it's going to be detrimental to the franchise, but also detrimental to Ubisoft as a whole. Assassin's Creed is pretty much Ubisoft's mascot at this point. I feel like the perception of Assassin's Creed in a large way is also the perception of Ubisoft. And so a poor showing of Assassin's Creed is going to not only just leave a bitter taste in our mouth for that press conference, but also for that company in its entirety. Also, besides that, they have to prove why each of their games are new and different. They have to prove why Far Cry 5 is more exciting than Far Cry 4, and why it is not just Far Cry 3 and 4 again, but with a different villain. And same thing for all of their games. Ubisoft, you just need to show us why these games are different. And if you don't, that is not going to be an exciting press conference. But they also have a great opportunity here. So why Ubisoft might have the best press event of E3 2017? Because things can be different. I'm actually very optimistic that things are going to be different. Watch Dogs 2 had no towers. Ubisoft, I think, wants to get rid of the stereotype that they are the towers developer, that every game they make has these towers and they're all the same. I think they are aware of this and they want to get away from that. And so I think each of these games will demonstrate to us why it is different. Far Cry 5 already looks different. It didn't open with a jokey main villain. It has a more somber, serious tone. There's religious cults. That's not goofy. That is very, very dark, potentially. That's different from what I have come to expect from the Far Cry games. Assassin's Creed did take a year off, and they are being respectful in the way they reveal it. They have not shown us anything about that game. I know there's been some leaks, but Ubisoft, all they did was send out an email saying, please be excited for E3. So I think they're confident that they have something impressive to show us. And besides that, Ubisoft just has fun at E3. They do. They bring out Aisha Tyler to tell jokes, and they have dances to start off their shows, and it's fun and it's bright and it's got happy music, and they feel like a family. That at the end of last year's show, they all got up on stage and they were all just like, you know, celebrating being a part of Ubisoft. And that is a unique vibe to Ubisoft. That is something that not any other press conference could do, but it also works perfectly well for Ubisoft. And so because they are unique and they are fun, we are ready to herald their press conference. We are ready to get excited about it because it puts off such good vibes. So I'm not sure if it's actually next, but the next one I want to talk about is the PC gaming show. So I'm going to be frank here. Why the PC gaming show might be the worst press event of E3 2017 is because there's almost nothing they can do to convince me otherwise. It is typically a long and boring show. That is a talk show. It is more of a talk show with intimate interviews than it is a press event. And so there's not really too many reveals, and there's not really a whole bunch of exciting announcements. But why the PC gaming show might be the best press event of E3 2017? Like I said, for me, that's not going to happen no matter what they do. But for the audience that it is targeting, for the people who enjoy PC games, I could absolutely see why this would be their favorite event of the show. Because it does cater to them, and it caters to them well. It does not insult them with the language it uses or the way it talks to its audience. It talks to its audience and they expect something out of them. They expect them to be on board. They expect them to be a PC game player. And that's the right way to do that show, I think. I don't think it needs to be like the other press conferences to make that audience happy. And I think it's been coming back because it does make its audience happy. E3 is typically a console-focused event, and so if you are a fan of those PC games, it is nice just to have a show that's all about the things that you care about. Also, this is the third year of the PC gaming show. And, you know, Half-Life 3, so do the math on that. So this is a new one, Devolver Digital. Devolver Digital is a publisher of indie games. They have done a lot of cool things. They have made a lot of really cool games happen, or at least helped those games happen. And so this year, they're decided to do their own press conference. But I'm a little worried. And so, why Devolver Digital might have the worst press event of E3 2017? Because I don't know if they have the budget. I don't know if they have the budget to do this show. Press conferences are expensive to put on. And not that budget is the end-all be-all of a show, but it does affect the way we perceive it. In 2017, I don't know if a podium and a projector is enough. If this is a super, low-budget show, similar to like the way press conferences used to be done, I don't know if that can make us excited, even if the games they show are good. And I mean, as far as the games they show, typically Devolver just has a sizzle reel in one of the bigger press conferences, and that honestly, that might be enough. That might be all we need to see. Those games are typically very good, but I don't know if they can carry a whole show. I don't know if they're going to demo well. I don't know if it's going to be the kind of things that play well to a press conference. But, I mean, why Devolver Digital might have the best press event of E3 2017 is because this is actually super cool. I don't want that to be understated. It is shining a light and paying respect to a area of game development that typically I feel like goes underappreciated. These indie developers work super hard. It is difficult to be an indie developer. And so the opportunity to be at E3, to be in a press conference, and be able to show your game is an amazing opportunity. And so, you know, we gravitate to genuine personalities in press conferences. You think about Sean Murray, and I don't remember his name, but the guy who unveiled Unravel and was working on that. They're very genuine people, and we connect with that. We connect with these just regular people just trying to make their dream come true. And so Devolver Digital could be all of that. Their press conference could just be a bunch of people who are just really happy to show their games, and that comes across. And so if they're good games demonstrated by people who really love showing them off, that could be a heartwarming and endearing show. So objectively, Sony has had the best press conferences over the last 2 years at least. And honestly, they might have already played their best hands. So why Sony might have the worst press event of E3 2017? Because I don't know if they can keep up the momentum. We know what most of Sony's studios are working on by now. Most of their first-party studios, which they have a lot of, we know what they're working on, and they either have just released something or are in deep with a game that they've been working on. And so it's going to be hard to have any surprises this year because they just might not have any left. They might have played all of them in the last 2 years. And if we just have a press conference with updates of things that we've already seen and already know about, that's not as exciting. That's not as big as having reveals. And so it runs a risk of just not living up to the past 2 years, which will be disappointing, which will affect how we perceive this press conference. Also, the pressure is on to have a good VR showing this year. So Sony unveiled the PlayStation VR with honestly a pretty solid launch, if for nothing else Resident Evil 7. But they have a history of kind of not really supporting their tech or their new technological advancements after they're out. They usually have a decent launch and then just never really get supported after that. And so there is a legitimate concern that the same thing is going to happen with PSVR. And so they really need to show us this year what else we can be excited for PlayStation VR. Also, Sony set a new bar with the presentation level of their press conference last year. It was classy, it was in a nice theater, and had a live orchestra. If they don't do a live orchestra again, it's going to feel like a step down. Even if no one else did a live orchestra, it doesn't matter. We will think less of this press conference because we have to compare it to the years past. However, why Sony might have the best press event of E3 2017? Because the games that we do know that they have are really good, or at least look very good. Most of the games that they have announced right now to come out are very exciting. This is a list of the games that could potentially be at E3 this year. God of War, Detroit Become Human, Dreams, Spider-Man, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Kingdom Hearts 3, The Last of Us 2, Days Gone, Death Stranding, and more. Those are all great looking games that a lot of people are excited to play or excited to see more about. And so, honestly, even if the show is just updates, if these games demo incredibly well, it could still end up being an amazing press conference. But that's not just that. There's also a very good chance that we see whatever Sucker Punch has been working on, that Bloodborne 2 could get revealed, or that Resident Evil 2 Remake could make an appearance. And there's other announcements that could potentially happen too. So there's a lot of potential still there for Sony to have an amazing show. And if they do stick with the live orchestra and the presentation that they had last year, that is a class act move. We like that. That is press conferences evolving. That's them taking their next step in becoming even more of a show. And so if they can keep that up, that is also going to vastly influence how we look at it. And this is also the only press conference you can go and watch in a theater. And I know that doesn't directly affect the press conference's quality, but it does affect your outlook on it. When you go to a theater to watch something, you are more likely to like it more. You are more likely to look fonder upon it, because going to a theater is a fun experience, and that is crazy that we can go to a theater to watch an E3 press conference, because a few years ago that was not a thing for anyone. Lastly, we have Nintendo. So Nintendo does a press event. They do not do a press conference. Nintendo for the past few years have done a digital event. I'm not sure why. I think it is because press conferences are expensive. But yeah, a few years back they decided we're just doing digital events, and they have stuck with that ever since. I honestly don't think they're ever going to go back. I wish they would, but for right now, we get the digital events, Nintendo Directs. So there is a Nintendo Direct multiple times throughout the year, but the E3 Nintendo Direct is always special. It is their E3 press conference. Why Nintendo might have the worst press event of E3 2017? Because Zelda's already out, and so they have to prove to us what else is exciting about this Nintendo Switch. The sins of the Wii U have not been forgotten yet. A lot of people still look at the Wii U and was like, there wasn't enough games, then they didn't come out quick enough. And those are still concerns for the Switch. Yeah, we know Mario is coming, but that's not enough for most people. Mario and Zelda are 2 games, and this is a full $300 box. And so you need to prove to us that there are going to be more games coming more frequently, and that is not Nintendo's track record. They have a problem with quantity. If they cannot prove to us at this E3 that there's going to be a more consistent rollout, then that is going to be a dark cloud that's going to hang over them for a very long time. But why Nintendo might have the best press event of E3 2017? Because the Nintendo Switch is new hardware, and we like new hardware. And unlike the Scorpio, this is actually a new console. This is a new generation for Nintendo. And so there's a lot of potential there. We want to be excited for the Nintendo Switch. It is a cool piece of tech, and it has a very novel concept that's actually very practical. And so if they can come and they can show us all the things that they're going to have and prove that there is going to be a consistent rollout of games, then yeah, it will be a great press conference. You know, Mario Odyssey looks great. If they demo that and it demos well, that's going to be a huge win for them. So at the Switch reveal event, they talked in a lot of vagueness, and they had people come out and say, yeah, we're working on games for the Switch. If they come out and they show what those games were, and all those people came out for the Switch event, give us an update and give us at least a trailer about a game, we're going to be more excited. Those games don't even have to come out soon. We just have to know that they're going to be coming, and know that there's going to be some third-party support to a greater extent than there has been in the past. And not just ports. It can't be just ports. It has to be new and exciting things, or at least games coming out at the same time as its other console competitors. And so yeah, there is actually a lot of potential here. And so Nintendo really has a chance to blow us away with their digital event at this year's E3. I hope that each company that puts on a press conference puts on the best press conference of their company's history. Good E3s are good for everyone. Everyone wins when everyone has good press conferences. So we'll see what's out there, but I hope everyone has a happy E3, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching.